What's going on, guys? Brad with Boss LEDs, and we are back to build some more wheel rings. So this time we're going to be going with 16-inch rings, and I'm going to give you guys a quick rundown on how this is going to work if you want to build your own. I'm going to give you a materials list. I'm going to give you everything you need to know in order to build your own set of wheel rings. That way you're not paying all these big companies all this big money for something that you can build for a fraction of the price. Let's get right into it. Now, I'm also going to say that this is not me dissing anybody. If you guys want to go pay the big money for these big companies, stuff like that, that's cool. They do, a lot of companies do make some really good products. Just not everybody can afford those products. That's why I'm here. I'm not dissing anyone. I'm not bagging anyone. Just giving you guys a cheaper option if you want to take it. So the first thing is obviously going to be pick your lights. It could be anything. They could be RGB, RGBW, triple row, quad row, double row, single row, doesn't matter. This method's going to work the same for all of them. The only thing that will change is the wiring. So we got our LEDs here. Next, you're going to need your LED or your ring material. This is the stuff that I use. You're going to want to base this second digit or whatever your width off of your LEDs. So I like to keep them at 1/16 thickness so that way they bend nice and easily. And it's a 1 inch wide because these are 3/4 inches wide. It just gives me a little extra ring to deal with. It's a little extra protection, whether you realize it or not. I use rivets whenever I mount everything. So this bag is just full of rivets. I'm not gonna bother pulling them out, but they are a 3/16 thick and they are 1/2 inch long. That's to go through extra material that's right here. So these are going to be used for your L brackets that you're going to make. So this is what you're going to get. This should be about the same width as your ring material. So I'm going to go into detail about that. I also have another video highlighting most of this stuff, but I'm going to just go into a little bit more detail with this one. So this one, I do make them a little thicker, and that's just so that way vibration doesn't knock them out. I'm actually using a thicker rivet this time too, just because this is on a little bit bigger vehicle, so I want to make sure that everything's good to go. Next, we got some clear silicone here. This is just to fill the ends of each LED strip whenever I cut them in silicone or solder them. You're going to need a 4-way splitter. Your 4-way splitter, you don't have to have this piece, it just makes it really easy and it makes it nice and tidy. You can see I've already done some soldering and heat shrink right there. So we're just gonna match the ends to that. Next, we have our controller. So this is gonna be our controller. This can handle up to 400 watts. And it also has some flash modes on here, so you're not stuck with just the basic on and off. And then just some basic wire. This is, where is it? 16 gauge. Yeah, 16 gauge. So this will be plenty thick. This is what I use every single time whenever it comes to doing wheel rings. Any wiring that I do, I use this stuff. And you can find all of this stuff on Amazon. The only thing I don't buy off of Amazon is the wood for our circles that I cut out, and then the metal. That's the only things I don't buy off of Amazon. You can buy them off of Amazon. I just haven't bothered doing it because I have a Lowe's right down the street. So this is your basic material list. I am not going to be showing you guys how to solder everything. I already have another video highlighting how to solder and everything, but this is going to be how to build the rings and get everything set up for your vehicle. All right, so now you need to figure out what size rings you actually need for your vehicle. The way you're going to do that is you're going to measure from the center of your brake caliper to the opposite side of your brake rotor. If you have drums, this isn't that big of an issue, and yes, you can put wheel rings on cars with drum brakes. You just have to be very, very careful. So, in this case, I'm going to be making a 16-inch ring. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do the math for you right here, is I'm going to do 16 times pi. Pi is 3.14, and that's how you figure out the circumference of the circle, the complete distance from this point all the way around to here. So, in my case, like I said, it's 50.24. I'm gonna add a little bit to it, make it 53, so that way I can make a nice edge to actually have rivets be able to attach the ring and make it 1. Now, when figuring out exactly what size ring you need, I'm gonna give you guys a little bit of a tip here. This is a freebie. If you have a 15-inch measurement. So say that you did your math and you did your brake calipers here, you had 15 from here to here on your brake rotor. You're gonna need at least a 16-inch ring or bigger. It's gonna be the same thing, whatever you get, just add an inch. It's that easy. You also need to take into account the size wheels you have. The inner diameter of your wheel is going to matter. If it's too close to the ring, it's not gonna shine very well, or you're just not gonna have enough space and the wheel rings are gonna rub right up against your wheels. So, if you've got 22s, 23s, 24s, you ain't got a problem. But I can tell you from experience that having a 17-inch ring with 20-inch wheels does not work that well, but it all depends on the wheel. I've had 2 different sets of wheels. The 17 shined really good on the last ones. They don't shine at all with these. So I have to remake my rings. It's no big deal. So keep that in mind when you guys are picking what size you need. And this goes for anything you're buying online as well. Just keep that in mind, guys. All right, I'm gonna stop blabbering. Let's get to the next segment. All right, guys, so this part's real simple. So you've got your pieces cut. Now you just need to figure out where you're going to put your rivets. So like I said, you're gonna take your 3/16 drill bit and you're gonna go right on the edge here. So on the edge, you're gonna need 2 holes. Your 2 holes are gonna be for the rivets. So you need to figure out where you're gonna put them. So I typically will go about 1/4 to maybe, half an inch back. So you don't want it like way back here, because then it's leaving too much that it can cause like a lipping issue to where the lip sticks up over the ring. But then you also don't want it like way out here because it's not gonna grab anything. So I typically try to go towards the middle. So I'm gonna put mine right here and right here. So that way it has enough material to grab it here on both sides, and it's gonna hold this lip down. So once you do that, it's as simple as drill the hole, guys. As long as you hold your drill bit or your drill straight, the rivets will go right in. They'll go all the way through all 4 of them. You'll feel it come out the bottom. So now I'm gonna go ahead and do the other one. Now we'll do the 2 rivet test. That one's in, and that one's in. So if you run into the case where these 2 overlap a little bit, you can mine aren't overlapping, but somebody's might. You're just gonna take a drill in one of the holes and just kind of wallow it out just a little bit. You don't want to do too much, because you do too much and the rivet won't actually grab. So that way they're not touching anymore, because you don't want them touching, because then one of them is not going to fully seat. So that is ideal right there. You want there to be a nice little space in between them. If you have to, put one in the middle and then go one behind it if it just doesn't work out. Or if you're doing the smaller pieces, smaller rings for a single row, you would only do one. And obviously the wider your piece is, the more rivets you're going to use. It's going to be the same deal whenever you're doing your brackets. You're going to do the same exact method for whenever you put your L brackets on there, which we'll get to that. So it's that simple, guys.
So I wanted to go over what this is actually for. So what I've done is I have taken a piece of this flat piece of wood, square piece of wood. I drew a hole directly in the center, and I measured out 8 inches this way because that would be my radius of my circle. And then I took a piece of metal that I have here, just with all the different measurements on it, and I went around this way with a marker at the end of it, and I just took a jigsaw and I cut it all the way around. So it's not exactly perfectly round, but when you're dealing with metal, it doesn't need to be perfectly round, because that's going to kind of round itself out anyway. So this is what I use as my jigs for all of my wheel rings. So what you're going to do is you're going to take a screw and you're going to shoot it in the end, like in this side of one of them, through one of your holes. I'm going to show you that here in just a second. And you're basically going to just take it, once it's tightened down, you're going to hold it against the side of this, and you're just going to kind of go around until you go all the way back around to where your screw was. And then you're going to put a rivet in the second hole, the one that does not have a screw in it. You're gonna match the holes up, and then you're gonna put a rivet in there. I'm gonna show you guys all that right now. All right, so now I'm gonna show you guys what I meant by you gotta put the screw in to the side of your piece in order to hold your rings. So you're gonna want to put your screw into the flat side here, the skinnier side. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pick the side here that I want to be shown and what not to be shown. Doesn't really matter, it's gonna be behind the wheel anyway. But I'm just gonna start our screw in there like that. And run it down. You don't have to run it down to where it strips it out. You just want it to be nice and tight. All right. Now this part's the easy part. Just take it, roll it around. First time I did this, I did it on the floor, but you can do that. But I found it just as easy to do it this way. And this is where you're going to need a little clamp. So remember how I said you want it to be a little bit longer than whatever it is you think. So our measurement for these came out to be 50 1/4. So I cut them at 53. For that reason right there. You see that little bit of extra? That's what you want. That is ideal. You want it to have just a little bit of overhang. So next, I'm gonna take our little clamp, bring it down a little bit. I'll flip this around because I can do this easier on this side. You want to make sure it stays as straight as possible. Now, you also leave a little overhang so that way you can get a clamp on here, because if you can't get a clamp on here, you're good luck holding it, dude. So we gotta get our clamp on there. Now, next you want to kind of scoop this edge out, and you want one of your holes, the other hole, to be exposed. So you can see down there by the end of the clamp, I've got the hole exposed. Now you just need to take something, a marker, and just mark the inside of that hole, just so you know where it's at, because now you're going to undo your clamp, and it's going to want to spring back, and that's fine. You just want to hold it so that it doesn't slap you in the face. And then you just want to simply drill the hole in that piece. Let me grab my drill real quick. I'm gonna drill it real fast. Right here. All right. You're gonna take your rivet and your rivet tool, and if you don't have a 90-degree rivet tool, I'm gonna highly recommend you get one. Just trying to use a typical rivet tool like this when you're going behind the wheels, it's not fun. So you can pick one of these up on Amazon, Harbor Freight, for fairly cheap. I think I paid like 30 bucks for this one, and it does a few different sizes. So now we're gonna do the same thing again. Now, like I said before, if you do this method, whatever size you were going for, it's actually going to be a little bit bigger than whatever it is you were going for. So here's another thing that can be a little bit tricky about doing it with my method. Now you're going to take the screw out, but you're going to hold both sides. Alright, get that out. Now you're going to press down and put your rivet in. Then you're going to try your best to press down that other end. Just bear with me, folks. I promise this way is super simple. Push it out a little bit. Grab your clamp. Clamp it down. Now that rivet is sitting as far down as you can get it prior to you doing this. So now we're going to stick this on here. Clamp it down with the rivet. There we go. Now you have a super strong ring here. You want to be very careful taking it off of your jig because it is very easy to unround it. Now you guys saw that that piece of wood is not that round, but check that out, folks. That's pretty freaking round. Now we're going to do the same thing again. I like to use my clamp just to hold that edge down a little bit better. And you can do, if you get a large overhang like that, you can do 2 more rivets if you really want to. So I'm putting the clamp on here so that way when I set this down, it stays round while I'm putting pressure on it with the drill. I'm gonna go really slow. I say that when I go high speed. Take another rivet, drop it right in place. And I do apologize if you guys are hearing a lot of like fabric movement. Forgot I had microphones halfway through this video. So, and there we go, folks. That is wheel ring number 1. And you can see that is super round. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and measure this for you guys so you guys can see exactly how much it comes out to be. So remember, I told you guys that we were looking for a 16-inch ring. And we are at 16 and a half. Hold on. Yeah, 16 and 3/4 actually. So 16 and 3/4, you need to take that into account. So if you use my method, whatever you have this set for, this is going to be roughly 3/4 of an inch wider, and that's simply because, you know, we're going around the outside. So this from side to side is exactly 16, so whatever wraps around the outside is going to be a little bit thicker, but that is a 16 and 3/4, and that is from this top edge here to the bottom edge here. So that's from our furthest point to furthest point. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the next 3. I'm going to go ahead and skip over those for you guys so you guys don't have to watch me do this 3 more times. But that is a perfect circle.
Just like that, folks. So without recording, that took me about 5 minutes per ring. So if you do the math, that's about 20 minutes doing this. Now I'm going to show you guys how to do the L brackets that I make for them, which are going to be these. You can make these before or after you do it, and you can make them in different sizes. I'm going to show you guys exactly how I come up with it. So let's get started on that. So now we're going to make our L brackets. So whenever I make my L brackets, you're going to want to make I'm going to call this the mounting edge. You're going to want to make the mounting edge the same width as your ring piece. So this is just a piece of scrap that came off whenever I cut it. So I've got a 1-inch piece here, so I'm going to make this 1 inch. I always make these 4 inches long here. You can make them bigger if you need to, or smaller if you need to, but 4 is a good place to start because you can easily just break this off. Now, if you don't have access to a grinder, I'm going to highly recommend that you get the thinner stuff. It is a 1/16 thick as opposed to this 1/8. This 1/8 is a little bit harder to break. So if you don't have access to a grinder, I'm going to highly recommend that you grab the smaller stuff. It's not going to make much of a difference. You just might want to throw an extra bracket in there. So I'm going to show you guys how I do this. It's really, really easy. So I've already marked it out here. So I measured 5 inches this way and I made a mark. Then I went back to 4 and I made a mark. So my cut line is going to be on the 5, and then my bend line is going to be the 4. So that way, that's how you get your L bracket. Now, I'm going to recommend at least 3 on each ring. If you can get 2, make sure they're on opposite sides. I know some configurations you can only get 2. Some you can get all 4. Sometimes you get 5. But I'm going to say a minimum of 3. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these and get them all made up, and then I'll come back. And that is it, guys. That is how you're going to make all of your wheel ring hardware, including the rings and the brackets. I already have a video showing you guys how to mount them, so if you want to see exactly how to mount them, check that video out. And if you guys want to see exactly how to make all your strips for everything, I've got a video for that too. Go ahead and check that out. If you guys like what you guys are seeing here, go ahead and hit that like button, share, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.